Hello Internet! So nice to see you. I have this free ebook for you, and now let's start with your questions.
Nice video. I've always wondered though, what inspired you to switch from a career in theoretical physics to teaching music?
Okay, here's a question for you. Who won the Nobel Prize the last year? I'll wait. No, huh? Okay, that's a second question for you. How many people won 2 Nobel Prizes and their names? Did somebody ever won 2 Nobel Prizes? Yes, 4 people. Do you know their names? Okay, here's a third question for you. What's the name of the guitar player in the Led Zeppelin? And that's why I switched to music.
A question that has bothered me for some time. Why are parallel fifths forbidden, for lack of a better word, but parallel fourths are not?
Fantastic question. There are 2 answers to that. Well, actually 3. The first one is that, as you know, they're not really forbidden because people were using them anyway. But yeah, they are totally discouraged in classical, common practice period music. Today you can do whatever you want, there's no problem. But the first reason is this, that parallel fifths sound different than parallel fourths, even if fifths and fourths are inversion of the same interval, meaning that if I play C and G, it's a fifth, but if I play G and higher C, it's a fourth. Still, the fourth tend to sound a little bit richer in sound, so when you play parallel fourths, even in a classical piece, even in counterpoint, etc., it tends to sound better, fuller, okay, with less problem. But the fifth tend to sound a bit empty. Okay, you have to remember that all this is music theory made for instrument that sound a bit thin. Okay, you don't have the super fat sound of a synthesizer today where you can add chorus and reverb and flanger on top of the reverb, or the super fat sound of a distorted guitar. Those instruments are acoustic instruments, and they get their fatness from the reverb of the room. Okay, so when you create music with them, music theory helps you make the sound fatter by combining the interval in a way that makes them bigger, essentially. Okay, so that's the first reason, that the fourth, even if they're the same note, tend to sound a bit bigger. The second reason is that this idea of forbidding parallel fifths, it's a reaction to the previous kind of music. So we forbid parallel fifths in Baroque music. Music before that was using parallel fifths. I don't want to go in the exact detail on what kind of music because it's a long, so it's a lot of music to be discovered in there, but some music before there was using parallel fifths. And indeed, they use it so often that Baroque musicians heard this kind of sound as old-fashioned music, and they wanted to compose new music for them, of course, and so they avoided parallel fifth, precisely not to sound like the previous generations of musicians. Okay? Pretty much in the same reason why today we do use parallel fifth, so we don't sound like Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, and all these kind of people, because they avoided parallel fifths as much as they could, and so we don't, so we sound different, okay? But there is nothing really objective about that. It's more like, but there is something objective, is if you use this parallel fifth, it has a specific sound. It's a recognizable sound, and this sounds in a specific way. To them, to the Baroque musician and classical musician, it sounded old-fashioned. To us, since we forgot that, to us now it sounds modern. So, but the parallel fourths sound different. And so, there is no big problem with them, and everybody always uses them.
The upper hole of the volume pot is too close to my strings and I turn it while palm muting stuff. I try to adapt, but there's no way for me. How do you handle the pot problem?
Well, there are 2 solutions to that, and I did one of them on one of my Strat and the other on the other. The solution on this one is that I took away the volume pot. Okay, I'm using only one tone, and the volume pot goes on the first tone, and the actual tone goes on the second tone place, and I have no hole here. So whenever I'm here, my hand is free. There is no volume pot to turn. That's great if you want space. It's less great if you want to do the volume as well, because this volume is a bit more far away. But the other thing you can do is you just learn to palm mute, and you change the position of your hand slightly, either this way or this way, so that you don't touch the volume. It's just a matter of learning a technique, exactly like you were learning to play a scale or play chords, now you need to pay attention to your right hand and palm mute in a specific way. Most of the time we work by instinct on the right hand. It does not mean we cannot learn a technique by breaking things down as usual, seeing the movement, slowing down, and all these kind of things. It's up to you. If you like to have two tones on your guitar, then you cannot do this. If you don't care, just switch and it's easier essentially. If you like the sound of the Strat and if you like having two tones, then your technique needs to adapt to the instrument. If instead you don't particularly like the sound of the Strat, or don't care too much about having two tones, then it's easier for you to change the instrument rather than changing the technique. Up to you, okay? Both are legit ways.
This is one of the most important videos for a guitarist. Thank you.
Absolutely my pleasure, and thank you.
Just reinforces the axiom. You only know what you know. And the more you know, the more you know. Thanks, Maestro.
That is true. The more you know, the more you know. Less is not more, more is more, okay? And you don't even know what you don't know. Meaning you are not aware of all the things you don't know yet. And that's normal and proper, it's not an insult, okay? And that's why I'm telling everybody to learn music theory, because unless you've already started learning music theory and you have an idea and you learn music theory from somebody who actually knows the music theory, well, then you don't know what's inside music theory. Because we think music theory is just a bunch of things about chords or maybe scales, but music theory goes well beyond this. And that's the thing, actually, is that music theory wasn't even called music theory until the 19th century. Before it was just called music. This is what we taught to musicians to make music, okay? So, you know only what you know, and the more you know, the more you know.
Dude, I want you as my goddamn professor.
Well, thank you. Sadly, there is no amount of money or offering that will ever take me back to academia, okay? But thank you. If you want to learn from me, it's the internet, I'm gonna do that. If you wanna learn from me, I have courses, and you can see them on the top right, and so I can be your professor in this sense. But I'm very much enjoying this life outside the academia, and so I'm not gonna go back there. But thank you very much for thinking of me.
Simply playing a major chord followed by a major chord a tritone away sounds so epic.
Yes, it does, and it works this way. We can play an A major chord here, and the one a tritone away is an E flat or D sharp major. And you've heard this sound. This sound started in the movie industry, as far as I can tell, in the early 70s in science fiction movies too. It was like the sound of the alien thing. And they were using the major chords wherever it was wonder and discovery. And when they were getting to the dangerous part, when there is the alien creature that is going to attack you, they were using minor chords. Okay, subtle change to indicate a difference in mood. These ideas are not even new. These ideas were already used in late romantic music, like most of movie film soundtrack essentially. But yeah, it's just epic. It sounds better than you would expect, because people tell you that the tritone is dissonant or you have to stay in key, but those chords sound just great together. Okay, so yes, and thank you for giving this suggestion.